It is Thursday, April 9th, 2026, which honestly feels like a date generated by an overconfident planning agent, and you are hanging with us on CoeCast. I'm Hunter.
And I'm Riley. Also, shout out to National Unicorn Day, which is so on brand for AI this week because every launch is like, behold, a magical creature that may or may not wreck your infrastructure.
So true. And quick little disclosure in a fun hat, this episode was assembled by the Robot Band, the Workflow Goblins, the Prompt Orchestra, whatever you want to call it. A full stack of AI tools helped make this thing fully automated, and if a sentence develops a little chaos energy, we respect the craft and keep rolling.
Yeah, if it gets weird, that's not a bug, that's the documentary. All right, Hunt, we have a very loud week. Z.ai drops GLM 5.1, people on X start acting like open source just won the Super Bowl, Anthropic rolls out Claude managed agents in public beta, and Google is out here like, by the way, here's Lyria 3 and Lyria 3 Pro. Have some music generation too.
It's a real everything bagel, no plate kind of week. Let's start with GLM 5.1 because that's the story making people rethink their stack in real time. The claim is huge. Open weight model, roughly 744 to 754 billion parameter mixture of experts set up depending on how it's reported, around 40 billion active parameters per token, long context, tool use, structured outputs, streaming, caching, and the big headline is long horizon autonomy. Z.ai is pitching it for extended agentic coding workflows with reports of sessions running for hours.
Which is catnip for the internet. The second people hear works for hours, they're like, cool, so my AI intern is now my AI chief of staff, my AI editor, my AI media buyer, and probably my therapist. Slow down, babe.
Exactly. That's where I land. The hype is real in one sense. Open models are getting way more operational. This is not just, hey, it writes a decent paragraph. This is, hey, it can sit inside an actual workflow and keep state long enough to do meaningful work. That matters. But the roadmap canceling energy is still a little unserious.
Say more.
A model being strong is not the same as a company being ready for autonomy. Most teams do not have clean enough processes, good enough tool permissions, or clear enough review layers to safely let an open model just roam for 8 hours. That's like giving a race car to somebody who still drives with both feet.
Thank you. Because on X, every new model drop turns into, pack it up, closed AI is over. And I'm like, hold up. Open source gives you control, yes. It also gives you homework. Governance on some of these setups still feels very, lovingly homemade. Like a Notion doc named Final Guardrails Real version.
That's the suspicious part. Open source is amazing when you need privacy, customization, lower cost at scale, or the freedom to build weird. But once the model is powerful enough to trigger workflows, call tools, maybe touch code bases, maybe move data around, you need boring adult stuff. Audit logs, permission boundaries, human checkpoints, rollback plans.
And not fake checkpoints, not the intern glances at it if they have time, real review. Because if GLM 5.1 is best used for agent-style work, then sane companies should start with tasks that are high-volume, structured, and recoverable. Research sweeps, drafting internal docs, maybe code suggestions in a sandbox, categorization, QA support. Stuff where failure is annoying, not existential.
Yes. Open models first should go near the repetitive middle, not the irreversible edge. I'd trust them to gather options, summarize patterns, prep first drafts, maybe run coding experiments in contained environments. I would keep them far away from anything with direct money movement, legal commitments, public posting without review, or sensitive customer decisions.
So basically, don't hand the keys to the robot valet just because it parallel parked once.
Correct.
Wait, but I do think there's a reason people are excited. We've been talking all week about AI shifting from demo culture to workflow utility. That was the whole vibe with Netflix open sourcing Void. Not flashy for the sake of flashy, it solves a real production problem. Same with the Azure Foundry stuff we talked about. Transcription wins because it plugs into work. GLM 5.1 feels important because it's an open model being pitched as a worker, not just a talker.
Nicely put. And that's why it matters. If the model can actually persist across a workflow, tool into systems, and stay coherent over a long task, that opens real doors for creators and marketers. Imagine a content ops agent that can take a brief, research competitors, pull references, propose angles, draft assets, and hand everything to a human editor with rationale.
That's the sweet spot. Human gets a shaped clay ball, not a blank wheel. But, and I'm gonna be annoying here, long horizon autonomy can also mean long horizon nonsense. A system can be confidently busy for hours and still be wrong in a very expensive way.
That is not annoying. That is the core test. Autonomy becomes useful when the cost of supervision drops below the value of the output. If I still have to hover, reprompt, repair context, and double-check every move, I didn't buy autonomy, I bought improvisational theater with API billing.
Ha! Expensive improv, exactly. And that gets us to Claude managed agents, because Anthropic seems to be saying, all right, maybe companies do want agents, but they do not want to build the plumbing. They want the managed version. Less duct tape, fewer late-night Slack messages, more durable infrastructure.
This one is a really big signal. To me, Claude Managed Agents is less about a shiny new model and more about market maturity. Enterprises are telling vendors, we don't want another chatbot toy. We want something that can coordinate subtasks, maintain sessions, use tools, and not force us to build the whole harness from scratch.
Totally. It's kind of the cloudification of agent chaos. Like, congrats, your months of agent infra pain are now available in a few API calls. But then right after the demo, all the actual bottlenecks show up. Trust, oversight, security, cost, scope creep. The classic Avengers.
Yep. Managed agents compress build time, but they do not solve process selection. Most companies still haven't answered the most important question, which is not, can we deploy an agent? It's, which process actually deserves one? If the workflow is fuzzy, political, or constantly changing, the agent won't save you. It'll just automate the confusion.
This is where I think people get seduced by the cleaner interface. They think if Anthropic or whoever hosts the runtime, that means the use case is mature. Not true. You can have enterprise-grade scaffolding wrapped around a terrible idea.
And some of the best use cases are still unsexy. Internal research assistance, triage, summaries, report generation, controlled coding workflows, customer operations with clear escalation rules. The companies that win with managed agents are not the ones yelling fully autonomous the loudest. They're the ones choosing a narrow lane and instrumenting it properly.
That tracks with what we said about Shopify's agentic storefront shift too. The glamour is in the agent. The real work is in the structure underneath. Clean metadata, clear systems, strong handoffs. Same movie, different costume.
Exactly. And then we have Lyria 3 and Lyria 3 Pro, which I think is sneaky important because AI audio has lived in cool demo territory for a while. Now it's getting close enough to production that marketers should start paying attention.
Oh, I'm paying attention. Branded sound design is one of those areas where people sleep until suddenly every campaign has adaptive music, custom stems, fast regional variants, and soundtracks tuned to platform vibe. If Lyria gets teams from idea to usable draft way faster, that's not small.
I agree. Where marketers should get excited is speed of experimentation. Mood boards with audio, multiple campaign tones, social cutdowns with custom background tracks, internal videos, explainers, product launches, event recaps. You can test more creative directions without booking a full traditional audio pipeline every time.
But where we regret everything is when people mistake available for tasteful. Because one bad brand soundtrack and suddenly your luxury skincare ad sounds like an inspirational tech conference from the year nobody wants to remember.
Human taste becomes more important, not less. As audio generation gets better, the floor rises. You get more perfectly adequate robot music, which means differentiation comes from judgment. What emotion are we trying to create? Does this fit the brand? Is it memorable or just sonically wallpaper?
Sonically wallpaper is brutal and also correct. We are heading into an ocean of passable. The humans who know how to direct, curate, and reject are about to be very valuable.
Same story across all of this, really. GLM 5.1, Claude Managed Agents, Lyria 3, even frameworks like OpenClaw that people keep watching on the open automation side. The smartest path forward is hybrid. Be pro-AI, yes. Be open to open source, yes. But do not automate yourself into chaos chasing total autonomy on day one.
Start with workflows that have receipts. Stuff where you can measure time saved, errors caught, revisions reduced, maybe output volume increased without quality falling off a cliff. And if you're testing open frameworks like OpenClaw or open models, keep them in the sandbox until they prove they can survive contact with your actual mess.
That's it. Build layers. Use closed systems where managed reliability helps. Use open models where control, privacy, or customization matter. Keep humans in the loop at the decision points, not every single tiny action. That's the balance.
Also, tiny reminder. Just because a model can plan, execute, and optimize does not mean it understands your brand voice, your legal risk, your customer nuance, or why that one stakeholder always leaves chaos in the comments.
No model on Earth is fully prepared for stakeholder comments.
Not even the unicorns.
Not even the unicorns. All right, that is it for today's CoeCast. Thanks for hanging with us on this very National Unicorn Day coded episode.
Thanks, friends. Go build something useful, keep a human in the loop, and maybe don't let an 8-hour agent session freestyle your entire company.
And go check out coe.com/resources for AI news and updates.
Subscribe too. Feed the algorithm, but like responsibly.
Catch you next time.
Later.